Hi everyone, my name is Crystal and I decided to do my case study on how I did it into its CEO on building a design-driven company by Brad Smith. Um, to start off, just going over the basics or the background for the article, Brad Smith became CEO in 2008, and when he became CEO, he basically wanted to bring back some of the values that the organization originally had when it was first founded, and that being design driven, being a design driven company. When the company first started, they became the market leader in personal finance software. So if you're familiar with TurboTax, I know I used it this year, for example. It is a very good product, and they create TurboTax, obviously. So to begin, data had to be collected. And the data that was collected was basically about the ease of use of the software. And so the number one reason that the product was recommended was because it was easy to use. And it was also the number one reason why people did not recommend the product. So to look further into that, they wanted to see why it was also the number one product, why people were not recommending the software as well, because of the ease of use. So more data needed to be collected. They decided to look into the features and functionality of the software, as well as the delight. Were people happy when they used the software? And data that was probably reported was probably asking the customer how the features were used. Did you like or dislike certain features? Asking the customers about or consumers about the accessibility, and was it easy to understand? Directions. Did they make sense? Was it easy to use, easy to navigate through? And then to get into the emotional aspect of it, they probably asked customers or consumers about how did they feel overall after using the product, after using the software. And they basically realized that there was no emotional aspect to the software. So there was no delight factor. People weren't feeling any one way about the software. So he created a quote, which meant that he wanted the company to be a design to delight organization. So moving forward, the existing data or data that needed to be collected to base this foundation, so they looked into the consumers that the software affects. So 6 billion hours each year are used on software from consumers, taxpayers in general, to prepare their income taxes. 70% of taxpayers are owed a refund, and there is your emotional aspect. So most people, if they are getting a refund, they're very happy about the refund, and it has been shown that it is the number one or the single number one check that or biggest check that most consumers might have that year. And so there was their emotional aspect. So they decided to increase the number of designers by 600%, and they also increased design conferences quarterly. Which it didn't state in the article if it was annually, but I'm guessing if they switched it to quarterly that it might have been an annual conference. And they also, obviously, the goal was to increase the emotional connection with the software itself in order to increase market shares, and to increase the delight that people or the consumers had. And so they decided to change certain things within the products. They actually have a portion where they offer free products. If you've ever used TurboTax, I know this year they did offer free products that for those that just wanted to simply complete their income taxes and they weren't worried about saving money, they just wanted to get over with. They had an option to do this for free. Obviously, if you wanted to expound upon your assets and things like that, then you would have to pay a certain amount for that. But it was still a great option to have the free product option in order to do your income taxes if you wanted to. So by doing that, they actually increased their market share to 60%, and their largest competitor is about at 18% roughly. TurboTax also grew 7% in 2014 alone, and they looked at the customer service calls, how many confused calls they were getting about the software, and it actually decreased to 24% because they tried to increase or change the design. They wanted to make it a design for delight. So looking into the outcomes of this, from comparing 2010 to 2014, the net income is 574 million in 2010, and in 2014 it increased to 907 million, and that's just the net income. The revenue from 2010 was 3,455 million and it increased to 4,506 million. So as you can see, there's a big difference there. I know that I personally have used TurboTax, and it is more delightful. They have, little smiley faces that they add to things. They have, little phrases that are nice, and you really do have an emotional attachment to TurboTax, which obviously, if you enjoyed it, then you would want to continue using it in the future. I think it's a great idea that they expounded upon. I know using other companies, they mentioned in the article Apple, for example. A lot of Apple consumers have an emotional attachment to Apple, which is why they keep returning. I'm one of those people. I have an iPhone and an iPad, and for example, I know that my husband's Samsung might have more features, and yet I still love my iPhone. I wouldn't part with it to this day. So this was just an example, obviously, about the data that was collected, how they identified different variables, such as the emotional aspect compared to the features and functionality, and how they were able to implement that as well. So I hope you all enjoyed my video. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.